The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Middlebrook, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Ingracia, Alderman Coatar, Alderman Gunther, Alderman Vollmer, Alderwoman Martin, Alderman Arnowitz, Alderwoman Murphy, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Green, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Roddy, Alderman Kennedy, Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Ogilvie, Alderman Cone, Alderman Williamson, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Navarro, President Reed.
Here.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Green, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Roddy, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Williamson, 19 present.
A quorum being present, we will be led today in prayer by Pastor John Watson, Jr. of Maple Temple. And we all stand for prayer. Gracious God, Heavenly Father, as we assemble in this chamber, we bow before you with full of praise and adoration as our nation and communities again focus on our black history. We're grateful for our ancestors who fought and died to change the world for us and our children. In those dark days, you were with us. You ushered in the marvelous light just before fate died. As we rehearse the history of the lives and contributions of slaves, former slaves, teachers, scientists, preachers, leaders, and friends and family that they have made both past and present to our lives, the nation, and the world. Help all of us to realize that black history has shaped all history. On this day, we recommit ourselves to the struggle for justice and equality, not just for people we know, but for all people. Into your hands we commit ourselves, our city, our nation. Amen. Thank you, Pastor Watts. With that introduction of honored guests, any introduction of honored guests? Alderman from the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my distinct honor to have the students of a wonderful private school headquartered in North City, right along Natural Bridge. That's Muhammad's Islamic Academy, which is led by Brother Ibrahim Muhammad. And also our sheriff for the city of St. Louis, Mr. Vernon Beck.
Let's go. Yeah. Can we have the kids stand up, please? The students or everybody stand up. Let's give them a big round of applause. Brother Muhammad, thank you for what you're doing with all the kids and all the administrators. We certainly appreciate it. You're making St. Louis a better, stronger city. And you're investing in our youth, so I cannot thank you enough. All right. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our sheriff for the city of St. Louis, Mr. Vernon Betts, and also my man, Mr. Percy Green, the Vice President of the Firefighters Institute for Racial Equality.
Alderwoman from the 14th.
President, and my esteemed colleagues on this wonderful, beautiful, chilly day. I'd like to have as my honored guests Demetrius Alfred from Firefighters Local 73, Lewis Hamilton from Centrex Strategies, and David Sweeney, our former legal.
Alderman from 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have one person in particular that I'd like to welcome as my honored guest this morning, but it is always a privilege to have the young people of the city of St. Louis in this chamber, and I just want to extend my heartfelt welcome to all of the young people that are here this morning and let them know that you all are the future of our city, and we're so grateful that you're here, and you are loved and you are cherished, and we hope the best and wish the best for you to prosper and become productive citizens of this wonderful city. Thank you for being here.
All right, sounds good. Alderman from 7th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I'd like to have as my special guest today Shannon Weber, from the new Special Projects Director at the Carpenters District Council. Where's Shannon? I don't know where she is. Oh, there she is. All right. And more important, not more importantly, but also I'd like to have as my special guest the junior class from Lift for Life Academy, who are up in the gallery. Thanks for coming down, guys.
Alderman from the 13th.
Yes, President, members of the board, I'd like to have as my honored guests today Samuel Adams and Jeff Hans from the St. Louis Carpenters Regional Council. Thank you.
Alderman from the 27th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to recognize my honored guest, Billy Daughtery, with the Pipe Fitters and Plumbers, Local 562, and Frederick Searcy with the Minority Recruitment.
Alderman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I'd like to have as my honored guest one of my second adopted sons in politics, but the government representative for Metro, Ken Franklin.
Alderman from the 24th. He'll take a second introduction.
Well, he's not my adopted son, but I was going to welcome Ken Franklin.
All right. Alderman from the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. He's not my adopted son either, but I like to claim Kenneth Franklin from Metro.
There you go.
I like to call him Dr. Ken Franklin, but also Chris Pickle and Leroy Grant with AT&T.
Alderman from the 23rd.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, I'd like to have as my special guest Greg Meyer, who is the president of the Tilly's Park Neighborhood Association.
Welcome, Greg. Alderman from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to welcome Anthony Lancy with the AGC as my honored guest this morning.
Any further introductions? Alderman from the 10th, like to wrap us up?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, we're gathered here on February the 2nd. It was on this day in 1923 that Red Shandies was born. You do the math and figure out how old he is. I'm too tired right now. And also on this day in 1863, Samuel Langhorne Clemens used for the first time his other name, Mark Twain. But most importantly, this is Groundhog Day. And I am sad to report that the alderman from the 23rd did see his shadow this morning. So we have 6 more weeks of debate about whether harshes should be in the city. Thank you.
Alderman from the 18th, you recognize on approval of the minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move for the approval of the minutes of December 15th, January 5th, January 12th, January 19th, and January 26th.
Moved by the Alderman from the 18th, seconded by the Alderman from the 26th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in sections A, B, and C of the agenda and have been placed in all aldermen's mailboxes. I have correspondence from Her Honor the Mayor. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Cherokee Limp Special Business District. The reappointment of Kaylin Wessinger, who resides in the 9th Ward and whose term will expire on December 31st, 2021. The appointment of Ray Simon, who resides in the 9th Ward and whose term will expire on December 31st, 2021. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Lyda Cruzen, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman for the 9th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Cherokee Limp Special Business District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move that we accept the mayor's appointments of reappointment of Caitlin Wissinger and the new appointment of Ray Simon to the Cherokee Limb Special Business District.
Moved by the Alderman for the 9th, seconded by the Alderman for the 25th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for reappointment to the Tower Grove South Concerned Citizen Special Business District. Reappointment of Tanya Anderson, who resides in the 15th Ward, whose term will expire December 31st, 2019. Reappointment of Deborah Cohn, who resides in the 15th Ward, whose term will expire December 31st, 2020. Reappointment of Julian Cloud, who resides in the 28th Ward, whose term will expire December 31st, 2021. The reappointment of Catherine Heisenroder, who resides in the 15th Ward, whose term will expire on December 31st, 2021. I respectfully request your approval of these reappointments. Sincerely, Lyda Cruzen, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 15th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Tower Grove South Concerned Citizen Special Business District. You're going to handle it in her absence? Okay. Alderman from the 25th, you recognize in the absence of the Alderman from the 15th to handle the mayor's appointment to the Tower Grove South Concerned Citizen Special Business District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to accept and confirm the reappointments of Tanya Anderson, Deborah Cohen, Julian Couliard, and Catherine Heisenroder to the Tower Grove South Concerned Citizen Special Business
District. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 25th. Entertain a second on that motion. Seconded by the Alderman from the 6th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the St. Louis Economic Development Tax Board. The appointment of Richard Bradley, who resides in the 13th Ward, whose term will expire February 1st, 2020. The appointment of James Dwyer, who resides in the 28th Ward, whose term will expire February 1st, 2020. The appointment of Alana Green, who resides in the 11th Ward, whose term will expire February 1st, 2022. The appointment of Gregory Meyer, who resides in the 23rd Ward, whose term will expire February 1st, 2020. The appointment of Tracy Johnson, who resides in the 2nd Ward, whose term will expire on February 1st, 2020. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Lyda Cruzen, Mayor, City of St. Louis.
Alderman from the 23rd, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the St. Louis Economic Development Tax Board.
I'd like to move that we accept the individuals for appointment to the St. Louis Economic Development Tax Board that the mayor had recommended.
Moved by the Alderman from the 23rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 13th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Is it anything that's going to change the... All right. Okay, you're going to request a roll call? All right. Alderman from the 24th.
Is it, Mr. President, thank you very much for recognizing me. Is it okay if I yield to the Alderwoman from the 6th to begin?
Alderwoman from the 6th, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to bring to the attention to everyone today, all of my colleagues, especially those who were not here with us when we passed the increase in, the new economic development sales tax last session. This board is much different than many of our other boards, as they will be an advisory committee to us with respect to allocate approximately $20 million per year. And I've unfortunately asked repeatedly to a number of folks in the administration to allow the board to be a part of the process. I would really have preferred to review resumes. We have some allocations of money for public safety, neighborhood revitalization, workforce development, and I think we need to be very careful about who we're appointing to this committee. And I'm also concerned that the director of the Board of Public Service, as well as the director of the CDA, are appointees. I enjoy working with both of those individuals. They are, however, already appointees of the mayor and already available to her or to us with respect to advisement on however this allocation of money will be spent. So I'd like to make a motion to move this to committee so that we have the ability to discuss such an important issue.
All right.
Second.
There's been a motion to refer this appointment back to committee by the Alderman from the 6th, and it's been seconded by the Alderman from the 24th.
Is there discussion on this?
Yes. Now there's a discussion on whether we send it back to committee. Motions. Any further discussion? Any further discussion?
Yes.
Alderman from 23rd.
So this board is only recommending where the money gets spent. The money that's going to get appropriated will come through the Board of Aldermen. We don't even have to take their recommendations. To hold up this board and say, gee, we'll just wait, just delays, because this board's important that it gets put together so that we do get the recommendations from them. And again, the bottom line is nothing gets done. It's an advisory board. Nothing gets done without the Board of Aldermen. And I would strongly recommend that we don't send this back to committee, but yet we start moving forward so that we can start finding out what needs to go on. I also know there was a lot of discussion in the mayor's office to make sure to try and get people from throughout the city. And I would say that this is important we move forward. So I strongly would ask that we do not send it back to committee and that we would vote against sending it back to committee.
All right. Any further? Alderman from the 24th.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we recall, the Alderwoman from the 6th, this was a bill she sponsored last year. The tax went on the ballot, voters approved it. And I remember that she included a fair amount of discussion about how this board was sort of a safeguard as we go forward allocating the money to make sure there's some community input into how this money is spent. And the board, of course, I believe it's part of the state statute that allows us to authorize that tax. So this board is different compared to many boards and commissions we have, and that they have input into how we're going to spend roughly $20 million, either spend or save $20 million a year, which is, I think, a more substantial responsibility than many other boards and commissions have. So there's value in talking to the appointees or the proposed appointees on this committee before we actually appoint them, so we have some sense of what they think their role is in advising on this spending $20 million a year. It may be that these 5 appointees are fine and that we end up approving all of them, but I think because this is a new board with substantial responsibility, I think it's really the Board of Aldermen doing our due diligence just to talk to these 5 individuals in a committee setting and kind of get a sense of what they think the priorities ought to be before we make the appointment. So I would think that probably the Ways and Means Committee is the appropriate committee to refer these appointees to. It's not that they've done anything wrong or that we don't like them. It's just a case of, I think it's a chance for us to do what we said we would do when we put this on the ballot in the first place and do our due diligence in talking to these appointees before we give them this budget responsibility. So it's not going to delay this. We can interview them soon. We can certainly have appointees appointed by the new budget year when we really start allocating money. So this is not a delay tactic. It's an informational and educational opportunity for all of us, I think. So I support sending it to committee. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. As I understand, I have reviewed and I have participated in over the years, we have always had representatives from our various departments on our commissions and boards in the city of St. Louis. Most especially because you need that knowledge there. And secondly, it is very important for the mayor to have the ability to choose her leadership to work on these boards on behalf of the city of St. Louis. The wonderful distinction between the Board of Aldermen and the executive branch is that we do have the ultimate power of decision-making, which means that when these bills come before us, we can decide whether or not it will remain the same. We can make changes, whether it's additions or subtractions from any budget number or item. We can continue to do that. I don't like to get too messy. I like to stay in my lane. So I have to support this opportunity for this board to come forward. Because if we start doing this now, the future is going to look real bad on behalf of the city. Because we're going to be so busy doing everybody else's responsibilities that we're not going to have time to do those that we were elected to do. So what I'd like to do is just simply say the mayor's appointments should be accepted today, and I shall support them. Thank you.
Alderman from the 22nd.
Members of the board, with the Alderwoman from the 6th Ward yield for a question.
Alderman from the 6th will yield for question to the Alderman from the 22nd.
I will.
Alderman from the 22nd, please proceed.
Thank you. Alderwoman, this was originally your bill or your idea, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how many members total will serve on this board?
There'll be 9 members. The mayor has 5 appointees, the Board of Aldermen has 2, and St. Louis Public Schools has 2 reps as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, I don't have a problem with the appointees, but I would like to encourage us to be more thorough in our process and more open and transparent about this particular board. Because the board is new, the money is new, I think it would be incumbent upon us to ensure that we enlighten the public about the duties of this particular board and how this process is going to play itself out. So if there's no sense of urgency where we're going to lose funding if we don't do this today, I think it might be helpful if it is sent to a committee so that we can at least engage the appointees or even just the mayor's office to talk us through how they envision this board operating. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further? Alderman from the 23rd.
Would there be an objection if I said, let's move it to legislation, if then we have a hearing and bring in all 5 members to be talked to by not only legislation committee, but whoever wants to get in there? Would you have an objection to that?
All right. Hey, Alderman, you have to talk to me.
Well,
if you want someone to yield.
Okay, well.
Alderman from the 6th will yield for questioning to the Alderman from the 23rd.
I will.
Do you have an objection to that?
I have an objection to it going to legislation. I think it's more appropriately assigned to Ways and Means.
Well, you know, I just feel like, at least in legislation, I can put something together very fast and we can move forward. And if the object is just to get the people in to listen, then there should be no problem going to legislation. I'll have a meeting on Tuesday so that we can start interviewing these people and getting them in.
Alderman from the 23rd, are you finished with your question to the Alderman
Yeah.
from the 6th? All right. Any further discussion?
Not for me.
Okay. Wow. Alderman from the 25th, I think you were up first, and then we...
I think you're right, Mr. President, and thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to also stand and say I don't personally have any objections to the members that have been nominated by the mayor's office to serve on this commission. I do, however, because this is a new board and commission, do believe that there should be a little bit more of transparency in regards to the appointment process on this, only because we're establishing a new board and commission, and I do think it's one of the few boards and commissions that, and like taxes, that I've been getting questions from constituents on how it's going to be spent and how that's going to be determined. And so I really would like to have a little bit more transparency with regard to that process, how people are appointed, why they're being appointed, what they view their roles and responsibilities are going to be on this commission, et cetera. So I do, while I support the nominations, I do also support having a little extra transparency in this process as well, just for the sake of education, so for our constituency and for others in the region as well.
All right, thank you. Okay. Alderman from the 1st.
Mr. President, members of the board, So when I came back here in 2013, I was very surprised that I saw people getting up on the floor and just making a nomination to pass the mayor's nominations. And that was interesting to me because part of the whole process of advise and consent is that we actually used to send, and the alderman from the 18th knows this, and alderman from 17th, we sent nominations to the appropriate committee so that people could ask questions of the people. And in fact, when you talk about being new, not only is this board new, half of the members of this board of aldermen are new and maybe don't know these people. Some might know them and some don't. When the alderman from the 18th did the Civilian Review Board, he appropriately sent it to committee so that people can question. And we end up even taking one person off of the nomination. And that's appropriate. Whenever I do resolutions, I don't try to most of the time, unless it's a courtesy resolution, I want them to go to the board because they should be examined. People should have a right. If it's advise and consent, the whole point of the Board of Aldermen is to give advice. If the mayor has a rubber stamp, she doesn't have to come to us. If she has absolute power to appoint, she doesn't send it over here. But we should have the right to ask people questions, and they should have to come and talk about what's going on. We see it all the time on the state level. We see it on the federal level. But here, I think we've dropped the ball, and we've become rubber stamps for these things. And anybody who wants to object and says they want it to go to committee should be able to have them sent to committee, and the people ought to be able to stand up to some minimum scrutiny. So I am in agreement with the alderman from the 22nd and other people who have said that we need a chance to advise and consent, and that means being able to ask questions. I don't know all these people on here. So I got some questions that I want to ask them. If you just say the mayor send them over here and this is who they want, I don't get to ask questions. How can I do a proper vote? With that said, I would like to ask the alderwoman I would like to request the alderwoman from the 6th yield to questions.
Alderwoman from the 6th will yield the questions to the alderwoman from the 1st.
I will.
Alderwoman from the 1st, please proceed.
Alderwoman, when this board bill was originally brought forth and you brought it, where was it assigned to?
Ways and Means.
Thank you. I asked that question because often the people who are assigned to committees went to the committee that had the board bills, okay? A lot of things, when I was chair of public safety, there are a lot of things had to come through public safety. The same thing for all of these committees. We ought to be doing a better job of vetting people and making sure the process is open. And so with the whole thing that I see going on with the airport, that does not bode well for us to just keep passing these things through without asking questions about what's going on.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 16th.
Mr. President, will the alderman from the 6th yield for the question?
Alderman from the 6th will yield the question to the alderman from the 16th.
I will.
Alderman from the 16th, please proceed.
Thank you. Alderwoman, do you know if this committee has any binding decision authority, or would they just be making recommendations?
Are you referring to a committee or the board?
The board. I'm sorry. Does the board
They serve in
have
an
any?
advisory capacity.
Right. Okay. So no to any binding decision-making authority, the board.
That's correct.
So then, I'm guessing if they make recommendations or advisements, it would have to come back to the Board of Aldermen in terms if we decided to act on any of those recommendations. And we'd have, I think any committee under the Board of Aldermen, whether it be HUD's, Ways and Means, Public Safety, or other, could ask for that information, and we could be advising and consenting on that recommendation.
I understand that it's not a binding committee, that it's only advisory, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do our due diligence with respect to ensuring that we have qualified people that are going to do the work and understand how the tax is supposed to be allocated.
Sure. And I think it's our responsibility. I think we can act prudently based on those recommendations if we feel that we're not getting the proper advice from this board. I just feel like we don't need to continue to stall what is, I believe, the city's business. And this is an economic development board that is going to make advisement on how we continue to grow and prosper as a city and how we set a plan 5 and 10 years down the road for our economic development dollars. So I think there's ample opportunity for the Board of Aldermen to vet based on the advice we're getting and see if that board's working. They have to come up for a reappointment. I think that can be a process that we can engage in now. I think we should be cautionary to further delay what is the city's business.
I couldn't agree more. And in fact, I've been trying to engage with the mayor's office since the tax began being collected in October. I've reached out numerous times to both she, the Director of Operations, and the head of her boards and commission, and been misinformed many times. And in fact, we don't have appointments from the Board of Aldermen or from the school district either. So these appointees today will not a committee of people to help us make decisions make.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any further, Alderman from 12th?
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the Alderwoman from the 6th yield for questions?
Alderman from the 6th will yield to the Alderman from 12th.
Yep.
Alderman from 12th, please proceed.
Good morning, Alderwoman. I knew he was going to make my day long, but I have no problem with it. So you're saying you've been in touch with the mayor's office and the chief of staff or director of operations and asked to be involved, and they said they would meet with you and keep you informed?
I've, yes, spoken directly to the mayor and to the director of operations face-to-face and via email and text messages. And while it's not my decision who she appoints, they did indicate that they would let me review the resumes so that I had an idea of who was going to be appointed. And I was told that this would not be on the agenda this week.
So you didn't have a chance to review the resumes, and you was told it wouldn't be on the agenda this week?
That's correct.
I mean, I'm from the show me state. I think you have to show things when you say something. I think that's bad communication coming from one room to the other, and I think it would be more than appropriate to send it back to committee at this time. A week from now is not going to make a difference, but you know, I think a lot of times we get taken advantage of over here, and we need to really, you know, step in and hear our end of it, instead of maybe just going along with everything. I think we deserve a chance of knowing the people that wants to be, the mayor wants to appoint to this board. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 1st?
Mr. President, members of the board, I want to thank the Alderman from 16th to point out that this is an advisory committee. As such, that is, if the mayor doesn't have to take what they recommend, then why do we even have this committee? They must serve some kind of purpose, okay? And the point of the charter saying that it is advisory consent of certain commissions that the mayor appoints is so that we do weigh in. And we come from all different parts of the city so that there is a representation from all parts. When I look at this even nomination, it is a skewing in the nominations. When you look at what parts of the city, there is only one person that is being nominated from North St. Louis. That is not what the city looks like, okay? And it ought to be a more balanced nomination of the people that they're appointing. So I am disappointed in that, but want to agree with the Alderman from the 16th that because it's just advisory, that there is no rush to get it done, because the mayor can just still proceed with what she's doing. I also want to thank the Alderwoman from the 6th for pointing out, because I know she was carrying this, and I talked to her at length about some reservations that I had about the things that they will do, okay? And when you've been around here long enough, you know who people are and the things that they will tell you and then the things that they will do. And so you're just getting a hint of what happens. The respect that should go your way, that you actually was working with them and that you were carrying this bill, that ought to be some respect. But the very fact that we don't even get resumes of people anymore, we don't even get a short synopsis except for say they're being nominated. Now, you go ahead and vote for that. That's totally disrespectful to this body as a whole. And I want to thank you for standing up and saying enough is enough. You know, I say it often, but I think that as the newer group of people, and again, I want to say we have, 13 or 14 people that served less than 4 years. That's a lot of new people. So even some of the senior people may know some of these people. Some of them don't. I am one of the senior people. I don't know some of these people. Why would I vote for I don't know who Gregory Myers is. I don't know what his qualifications are. And although it may be, I don't know him. He may be very well a good person. Why wouldn't he have to stand up to some kind of scrutiny to say, why is he being appointed to this board? The same thing of Tracy Johnson. I know Atlanta Green. I know Rich Bradley. I don't know James Dwyer. He may be a good person. Why don't we get to find out who they are, if they have any conflicts of interest, if they should even be serving on this board? If we don't even look at the whole basis of how they are being appointed, and if there's a potential conflict, then when something comes up later, they're going to say the Board of Aldermen didn't do their job. So again, I will point out that we had to have one of the people who was going to be appointed to the Citizens Review Board had to withdraw her nomination because there was a potential conflict of interest. If we don't go through and look at these things, then we won't discover these things, and it'll be shame on us if something goes wrong. So again, thank you, Alderman from the 6th. This is a good way to do this, and we should do this more often instead of just saying the mayor has nominated him. It's with advise and consent, and that's on all levels, the local, the state, and the federal. And the consent is that when it comes here as a nomination, we're supposed to examine these people. Thank you.
All right, Alderman from the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. As I sit here and I listen to the discussion, an epiphany has occurred. So we could appoint the 5 members today, but what we haven't done is appointed the 4 members from the Board of Aldermen, which provides an opportunity for a balance across geography if we seize that opportunity. So if we pass it today, theoretically the board can start operating, I guess, tomorrow because 5 beats 4. However, that wouldn't be fair and that would be a disservice. So I think there was a misstep somewhere. We need to, as a board, find the 4 people that we need to appoint so that we can have a body as a whole. So that gives us another opportunity and another reason to suggest that going to a committee would give us more time to make our appointment so that we can have 9 members as a whole. Thank you.
Just for clarification purposes, I want to make sure that...
Hey, Alderwoman, I haven't recognized you yet. Madam Clerk, you guys make sure on that soundboard to only turn on the mics that I've recognized. Alderman from 22nd, you still have the floor.
Okay, I thought maybe the Alderwoman from the 6th might have a question, so I'll just yield to her. Maybe she has a question.
Okay, do you want to ask her a question? Would you like her to yield to a question?
With the Alderwoman from the 6th, yield.
Alderman from the 6th will yield to question until the Alderman from the 22nd.
I will.
Alderman from the 22nd, please
Would you
proceed.
like to provide some clarity on something I may have said?
Thank you for asking. The Board of Aldermen appoint 2 members, not 4. The St. Louis City Public School District has 2. And pursuant to state statute and the ordinance that we passed, the fully functioning our board will be 9 members.
So let me ask you this. Are you aware if there's any communication with St. Louis Public Schools? Do we have those nominees?
I've reached out to Dr. Adams several times.
Okay, so the fact of the matter is we will have 5 and 4 missing in action, basically.
That's correct.
Okay, so again, another opportunity to have a body as a whole and give us reasons to pause. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 6th, you recognize the close.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to reiterate the importance of ensuring that we have qualified members on this board serving in an advisory capacity to us here at the Board of Aldermen. We're already short-staffed enough, and so having folks who know what they're doing and can make smart decisions on behalf of the taxpayers, I think is a smart move. I'm also, because I did carry the legislation, have a sense of responsibility to make sure that this board is functioning well, because this is a lot of money from our taxpayers to the tune of $20 million a year. And so I would ask for my colleagues' support in referring it to Ways and Means. Renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 6th, Alderman from the 23rd.
Wasn't the original motion?
Yeah, the original motion was just to refer it to committee, not to refer it to Ways and Means. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 24th, to refer the mayor's appointment to the St. Louis Economic Development Tax Board to committee. And there's been a request for roll call. Alderman, please. I think there's always an option for this board to move things back to committee, appointments and things back to committee. No, there isn't a standard rule. It's open if anyone wants to. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from.
I'm talking to Mike.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderman from the 24th, that we refer the St. Louis Economic Development Tax Board's appointments to committee. And there's been a request for roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Waters, what committee?
I'm going to look at that based on the bill, because that wasn't the original. We've already put the vote. We cannot discuss it anymore. The vote's been put. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coatar. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Arnowitz. Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Green. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Roddy. Alderman Kennedy. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Boyd. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Ogilvie. Alderman Cone. Alderman Williamson. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Navarro. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Green. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Boyd. Twenty-four aye votes, 2 no votes.
By a vote, you sustain the motion, Alderman from the 6th, and refer the mayor's appointments to the St. Louis Economic Development and Tax Board back to committee. Any further bills? We've dispensed with line item 7. Board bills for. Would anyone like to take any bills off of any of our informal calendars? Would anyone like to take any bills off of any of our informal calendars? We'll dispense with line items 8 through 10. First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 251, sponsored by Alderwoman Howard, an ordinance establishing a two-way stop sign at the intersection of Alfred Street and Bingham Street, regulating all traffic traveling northbound and southbound on Alfred Street at Bingham Street, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 252, sponsored by Alderman Boyd, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Public Service authorizing a 2018 St. Louis Works and 50/50 Sidewalk program citywide, appropriating $5,300,000 from the Street Improvement Fund, containing sections for descriptions of the work, approval of plans, specification, work material, guarantees, estimated costs from city funds and supplemental agreements and reversion, authorizations, applicable state and federal wage requirements, equal opportunity provisions, the mayor's executive orders, contract advertising statutes, and a public work emergency clause. Board Bill 253, sponsored by Alderman Roddy, an ordinance pertaining to parking within the Talmage residential parking district, containing definitions, a penalty clause, and an emergency clause. Board Bill 254, sponsored by Alderman Williamson, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 1301 Union. Board Bill 255, sponsored by Alderman Coatar, an ordinance promoting the use of energy-efficient heating through the connection of the downtown steam distribution system, requiring the continual use of the downtown steam distribution system for any development project occurring in downtown St. Louis, seeking municipal financial incentive, of prohibiting the Clean Energy Development Board of the city from approving financing for any project that would result in a commercial building disconnecting from or no longer using the downtown steam distribution system for heat, a portion of the net profits to be remitted to the SWMDC, and containing a severability clause. That's the extent of our first reading.
Alderman from 22nd, you recognize.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I'd like to motion to suspend the rules for the purpose of first reading Board Bill 256.
256, is it on everyone's desk?
It is.
Yes.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 22nd, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 256, and it's on everyone's desk. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Coatar. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Onowitz. Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Green. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Roddy. Alderman Kennedy. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Boyd. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Ogilvie. Alderman Cone. Alderman Williamson. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Navarro. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderman Onowitz. Alderwoman Green. Alderman Muhammad. Alderwoman Tyus. Your vote, is it present? Her vote is what?
Alderwoman from the first, do you want to, that you can't, we're done with the vote. You want present? No, a pass isn't a vote. You have to vote present. You can vote present. All right, thanks.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderman Onowitz. Alderwoman Green. Alderman Muhammad. 20 aye votes, 2 no votes, 2 present.
By a vote, you sustain the motion, Alderman from the 22nd, and introduce Board Bill 256. Madam Clerk, please read the foreword for Board Bill 256.
Yes. Board Bill 256, sponsored by Alderman Boyd, an ordinance pertaining to the City of St. Louis Parking Commission and the administration and use of the parking meter fund. That's the extent of our first readings.
Madam Clerk, please assign Board Bill 256 to Streets.
So noted.
Reference to committee.
To the Streets Committee, Board Bills 251, 252, and 253, and 256. And to the Housing Committee, Board Bill 255. To the Neighborhood Development Committee, Board Bill 254. That's the extent of reference to committees.
Second reading.
Following Board Bill was reported out of the Streets Committee, Board Bill 129, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, an ordinance to make it unlawful subject to those exceptions stating herein for any person to ride, walk, or otherwise lead a horse or horses on, along, or over the public streets, alleys, sidewalks within the City of St. Louis and the paths and trails and any extensions thereof within the City of St. Louis. The following board bills were reported out of the Neighborhood Development Committee. Board Bill 206, sponsored by Alderman Kennedy, an ordinance approving redevelopment plan for 5122 through 24 Kingsington. Board Bill 213, sponsored by Alderman Ogilvie, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 1216 through 1218 Craft. Board Bill 223, sponsored by Alderman Williamson, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 5522 Delmore. Board Bill 229, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 3450 Oregon. Board Bill 230, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 3024 Potomac. Board Bill 238, sponsored by Alderwoman Martin, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 6132 and 7600 Vermont and 7806 and 7810 Virginia. Board Bill 247, sponsored by Alderman Roddy, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for Forest Park Scattered Sites 5. The following board bill was put on public safety, Board Bill 212 as amended, sponsored by President Reed, and ordinance amending ordinance 69190 by repealing section 2 of that ordinance and enacting in lieu thereof a new section 2 pertaining to the same subject matters and containing an emergency clause. The following board bills were reported out of the Housing Committee. Board Bill 181, sponsored by Alderman Coatar, and ordinance amending ordinance 635 approved August the 1st, 1995 by modifying the terms of real estate tax abatement for 11th, Clark, 8th, and Poplar redevelopment area authorized by ordinance 63535. Board Bill 205, sponsored by Alderman Moore, and ordinance approving redevelopment plan for 2400 through 22 North Sarah and 4056 through 58 St. Ferdinand. Board Bill 214, sponsored by Alderman Muhammad, and ordinance approving redevelopment plan for 4200 through 98 and 4209 through 99 Harris. Board Bill 228, sponsored by Alderman Coatar, and ordinance approving redevelopment plan for 701 through 705 North 1st Street. Board Bill 231, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, and ordinance approving redevelopment plan for 3548 South Broadway. Board Bill 211, sponsored by Alderman Gunther, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on December the 6th, 2017 to change the zoning and property indicated on the district map for multiple dwelling districts for properties on 3306 Wisconsin Avenue as to include the described parcel of land in City Block 1532 and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 189, committee substitute, sponsored by Alderman Moore, and ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission on November the 8th, 2017 to change the zoning of property as indicated on the district map in City Block 3666 for C, multiple family dwelling district, and F, neighborhood commercial district to the F, neighborhood commercial district only for properties on North Sarah Street as to include a described parcel of land in City Block 3666 containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 191, sponsored by Alderman Roddy, and ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission to provide for the establishment of a Forest Park Southeast Farm-based district and containing a severability clause and an effective date clause. Board Bill 192, sponsored by Alderman Roddy, and ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission to repeal the Grove Commercial Area Special Use District Ordinance 67924 and setting an effective date. Board Bill 248, sponsored by Alderman Roddy, and ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment authorizing and directing the issuance and delivery of one or more series of tax increment revenue notes for St. Louis Innovation District, RPA 3 redevelopment project Series A, Series B, and Series C in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $18,400,000 plus cost of issuance for certain reimbursable redevelopment project costs and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 249, sponsored by Alderman Roddy, and ordinance adopting and approving a redevelopment project for redevelopment area 3 as described in amended and restated St. Louis Innovation District Tax Increment Finance and Redevelopment Plan, adopting tax increment financing within the redevelopment project area 3, establishing an RPA 3 account of the St. Louis Innovation District Special Allocation Fund, authorizing the execution of a First Amendment to amend and restated redevelopment agreement between the City and St. Louis Innovation District, prescribing the form and details of said agreement, authorizing certain actions by city officials and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 250, sponsored by Alderman Coatar, and ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for 300 South Broadway. The following board bill was reported out of the Ways and Means Committee. Board Bill 240 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Williamson and Alderman Oldenburg, and ordinance providing for and directing the submission to the qualified electors at the special bond election to be held on the 7th day of August 2018 for a proposal for incurring of indebtedness and the issuance of bonds said city in evidence thereof in an aggregate amount not to exceed $50 million upon the assent to the said proposal of 2/3 of the qualified electors and containing an emergency clause. That's the extent of our second reading.
We'll dispense with line item 14, perfection consent.
Board Bill 236, sponsored by Alderman Vaccaro, an ordinance establishing a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Clifton and Oletha, and regulating all traffic traveling eastbound and westbound on Clifton at Oletha, and regulating all traffic traveling northbound and southbound on Clifton at Oletha, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 243, committee substitute, sponsored by Aldermen and Alderwomen Spencer, President Reed, Murphy, Alderman Boyd, and Alderwoman Navarro. An ordinance requiring the City Information Technology Services Agency to create and maintain in good functioning order a calendar on the homepage of the city website, specifically for the purpose of publishing required notifications of city departments and divisions, public meetings, as the term is defined in 610.010, the revised statute of Missouri, and requiring said city departments and divisions to publish notifications of public meetings on said calendar. That's the extent of perfection consent.
Alderman from the 18th. You recognize on the motion for the perfection consent calendar.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move for adoption of the perfection consent calendar.
Moved by the Alderman from the 18th, seconded by the Alderman from the 10th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will dispense with line item 16, third reading consent calendar.
Board Bill 218.
Alderman from the 18th, you recognize on the motion for the third reading consent calendar.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move for adoption of the third reading consent calendar.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 18th, seconded by the Alderman from the 19th. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Middlebrook, Alderman Bosley, Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Ingracia, Alderman Coatar, Alderman Gunther, Alderman Vollmer, Alderwoman Martin, Alderman Arnowitz, Alderwoman Murphy, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Green, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Roddy, Alderman Kennedy, Alderwoman Davis, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Ogilvy, Alderman Cone, Alderman Williamson, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Navarro, President Reed,
aye.
Alderman Bosley, Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Green, Alderman Oldenburg, Alderman Muhammad, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderman Cone, 22 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion of the Alderman from the 18th and third read and finally pass the aforementioned bill. We will dispense with line item 18. Report of Enrollment Committee.
Board Bill 218.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix his signature hereto to the end that these may become law. Alderman from the 19th, you recognize on the motion for the courtesy resolution calendar.
Members of the board, I ask for adoption of the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Moved by the Alderman from the 19th. Entertain a second on that motion. Seconded by the Alderman from the 12th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
First reading of resolutions.
Resolution 213, sponsored by Alderwoman Martin. The Board of Aldermen recognizes the 45th anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision in Roe v. Wade.
Alderwoman from the 11th, you recognize on the first reading of Resolution 213.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion that this resolution number 213 be referred to Committee on Health and Human Services.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 11th that we refer Resolution 213 to Health and Human Services, seconded by the Alderman from the 9th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, please assign Resolution 213 to Health and Human Services.
So noted. That's the extent of our first reading of resolutions.
Second reading.
Following resolution was reported out of Public Safety Committee, Resolution 211, sponsored by Alderman Kennedy, and Ordinance 67794, approved January 14, 2008, established that the annual proceeds of all sales tax shall be initially deposited in a city public safety protection sales tax fund and shall be dedicated to and used for various purposes commencing with the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2008, and each fiscal year thereafter.
Alderman from the 18th, you recognize on the second reading of Resolution 211.
Mr. President, is this the Prop S?
Talk to our attorney and check the language from our attorney. Alderman from the 18th, would you like to hold this over till next week?
I would like to hold it over till next week. Thank you, Mr. President.
Madam Clerk, please assign Resolution 211 to the resolutions and formal calendar.
So noted. That's the extent of second reading of resolutions.
Miscellaneous unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Tuesday, February the 6th, Public Safety Committee meeting, Public Safety Committee meeting at 9 a.m. in the Kennedy Room. Also on Tuesday, Streets, Traffic, and Refuse meeting at 9 a.m. in the Leisure Room. And then also on Tuesday, Personnel Committee meeting, that's at 11 a.m. in the Leisure Room. Wednesday, Ways and Means Committee meeting, 10 a.m. in the Leisure Room. Thursday, Transportation and Commerce Committee meeting, 10 a.m. in the Leisure Room. Friday, Full Board meeting, 10 a.m. in the Chambers. That's the extent of my announcements.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderman from the 18th, you're recognized on the motion to excuse.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move that the Alderman from the 5th and 15th be excused for necessary absence.
Moved by the Alderman from the 18th, seconded by the Alderman from the 10th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman from the 18th, you recognize on the motion to adjourn.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move that the board adjourns until Friday, February 9th, 10 a.m.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 18th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th and the 10th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Stand adjourned.